Deep breath in and out. And come back to our call. All right, everyone. I'd like to invite you to our Sister Science podcast today. My guest is Serena Arora, and Serena is the best-selling author of the book Unbound, which I'm guessing, Serena, I haven't asked you this yet, but is a tribute to your Chinese grandmother's bound feet.
It
Yeah.
is.
You are an Ayurvedic health practitioner, a yoga therapist, and you've been teaching yoga teachers for over 25 years. So, a teacher trainer, and you've got decades of experience in helping women break patterns and build resilience and using how to use the tools of yoga and Ayurveda to do that very thing. Um,
Yes. Yes.
Everything at Sister Science here is about trusting the wisdom of our own bodies and trusting our journeys. And I want to talk to you about that. I want to just get into this grounding and growth and how your backdrop, how your life gives us a whole story on how you can come home to yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank,
So, welcome, Serena. Thanks for being here today.
thank you, Jill. It's a real honor to be here. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
I got to read your book, and I have to tell you, it was a privilege. It was a delicious read. And I You are a Calgary girl,
I
first
am.
generation Canadian of an Indian father and Chinese mother. And your story is one of being that immigrant daughter and how you move through the world. Can you start? There was a couple terms in the book that I just loved, and you call it immigrit and immiguilt. I don't know if
Mm.
that's the place you want to start, but lead us in.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, because it is relevant to everyone. So thanks for the question. Uh, so yes, I grew up in a world that I found myself straddling cultures, generations, and there's a gap that between my Indian father, my Chinese mother, my Western upbringing, living in Calgary, Alberta in the 70s and 80s and in the suburbs. I mean, it's definitely Calgary's a different city now. But 50 years, some years ago, it was a really different place. And my experience is described in this book. And I really do believe that I didn't realize how much cultural dissonance there really was at the time. It was all I knew. This was my
Yeah.
life. And so for me, I was just being this kid that was this is how the world I knew. And what I inherited from my immigrant parents was something that I coined immigrit. And
Yeah.
this immigrit is the fight, is the grit, is the resilience, is the ability to move forward and keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what the obstacle is in the way. And there are many obstacles. My parents, they went from their home countries to England, where they met and got married, to Canada. And they started in Edmonton, and then they moved down to Calgary through my dad's work and my mom's work as well. So they ended up affording me the characteristic to keep going no matter what. So this immigrant has gotten me to where I am today as well. It
Yeah.
has given me so much skill, resilience, and ability to just continue. I have reinvented myself so many times. I was a middle school teacher to begin with. And then I've been a yogapreneur for a long time. I have my yoga business, yoga teacher training. I owned a yoga studio. I owned a group home for youth, troubled youth, became a Ayurvedic health practitioner, and now I have this retreat center in Costa Rica. So, and of course, I taught along the way, everything in between at different places in the US. And so for me, reinvention and reinventing yourself takes immigrant. You're in an unfamiliar place. You don't have necessarily a network. You don't have a support system already created, and you take the risk to do something that doesn't always feel comfortable. And it is in that discomfort that growth takes place. So that is really what took me there. What I noticed with Immigrant is that my cultural conditioning described what quote unquote success
Mhm.
meant to my parents and to maybe the lineage before that. And so, what was passed down to them, what does success necessarily mean? And for immigrant parents, especially, it's that they sacrificed a lot for their children and that their wish and their hope and their dream is that their children are more successful than they were
Yeah.
and then them. And so to me, it was constantly carrying this backpack of I call immiguilt. It's like if I ever followed my deepest heart's desires, or if I did something that I felt that maybe wasn't quite in alignment with their wishes or their desires or what their judgments about what I was, my decisions, that immigrant backpack got heavier and heavier and heavier. And I turned 52 this year. And for me, I have just put down the immigrant backpack as I'm now in this caregiving season for my parents. And so that, my dad's 91, my mom is 86. She needs care. She has Parkinson's and dementia. And so for me, I've really noticed that I've really set down any kind of sense of guilt. I've done what I can. I've used my immigrant to put together, even now care for them. And I've sacrificed for them so that because I know that that's what they did for me. And I can also stand in the idea that I also too need to care for myself and to keep myself aligned in alignment with my fulfillment and what fulfills me. And so Ayurveda has been that tool that brought me out of the immigrant state, let go of this uh thinking about everyone else stage and really drew me into my own self-care. I let go of this self-care all often and it just became this burnout cycle that happened over and over and over again. As I'm sure you read in the book, it's after every chapter it just seemed like I was in the exact same situation, just in a different city, different country, different people, different environment.
Yeah. Oh, and you do a really beautiful job in the book of that juxtaposition of like the human life and the human lessons that just keep coming, and then like the patterns and the programming of immigrit and immiguilt. I loved that because so many of us don't really know what the background operating system is that's running in our lives. And for you to be able to name it and notice it, and then draw your awareness back to it and how it was impacting your decisions and choices throughout. You did a beautiful job of showing us that. And then
Thank you.
showing us how you would use the tools of yoga and Ayurveda to come back home to yourself. And
Thank you.
I do think that that's what the gift of yoga and Ayurveda is that they're the lifestyle, daily small choices that we make in order to be in good relationship with ourselves.
Hmm.
And so I call them like dry land training for life.
Hmm.
They're just like good tools to have in the background. Oh,
Yeah.
there's one time there's two spots that you're making me think about in the book right now. And one spot was when you came home from school one day and you said, Mom, I know what I am. I'm Indonesian because your dad is Indian and your mom is Chinese. So you put those and you're like, I'm Indonesian. Your mom was like, no, you're not, sweetheart.
Yeah. Yes.
But just like that explains that whole childhood in the 70s in rural, sorry, suburban Calgary, trying to figure out who you were. And then when you
Hmm.
talk about immiguilt, I mean, that cropped up again late at the very end of the book when you were choosing to move to Costa Rica and you were like, move here? Like my immigrant parents would be horrified to know that I'm going to go choose to live in a third world country after all the sacrifices they made for me to not live in a third world country. Like
Yes.
that was just like the final putting down of the backpack was that moment, I think.
Yeah. And to your point, what is running in the background constantly in this background pattern that we don't really realize. I mean, it took me 50 years to really, not necessarily see that cycle. And it took me getting to the Costa Rican jungle, in the middle of the Costa Rican jungle, where there's nowhere else to go, that you really, the saying, wherever you go, there you are,
Yeah.
became I came face to face with that truth. And, yes, Ayurveda and yoga is there. I've been a yoga therapist for over 25 years. I've been an Ayurvedic health practitioner for over 15. And for me, it's like, how on earth did I continue those patterns where I was at the point where I was a full-fledged Ayurvedic health practitioner, and I found myself so stressed out that I had arthritic symptoms, and it was almost embarrassing. It was like, how can I not see that I'm the one who has all this knowledge and this wisdom, and that I've studied all of this, and I'm giving other people advice on how to live their life, and, a stress-free, pure life. And here I am, completely stressed out, not sleeping, and eating it in at all hours of the day. I was teaching yoga when I owned my yoga studio. I was teaching 40 classes a week,
Mhm.
total burnout, not in alignment in my relationships, drinking alcohol, like really misaligned, incongruent, I called it. It was like living these incongruent lives. And when we are living an incongruent life, we know it. Deep down, our body knows it. It's telling us every single day, it's whispering to us all the time. And whether we choose to listen to it or not, that's what ends up becoming, whether it becomes a cycle or whether we break that pattern. And so for me, it took a long time and many different relationships, a divorce, different careers, and different iterations of my career. And for me to really see it and say, okay, enough. And, I looked at myself in that rearview mirror in Costa Rica, and I was in my car. I spent a lot of time in my car. A lot of the lessons came in the vehicle, and which is kind of why the cover is that I'm sitting on the road, and it's, and I'm naked. It's so vulnerable. It's like in those most vulnerable states, those are the moments where we can really pause and listen and say, okay, let me be humble enough to learn this lesson. And am I ready for that? Yes, we all are, because it's not called growing pains for nothing. It is
Yeah.
painful. It is painful in those moments. They crush
But I think
us.
one of the good, yeah, the kleshas, right? The ways we cause our own suffering. One of the beauties of the book was just that idea of like these old patterns, they exist in your life because your parents wanted something better for you. And
Mm.
you have such love and respect for your parents that you don't want to just throw away the gifts that they're trying to give you. And you could see as the book was going on, you kept referring to it. I was doing yoga. I wasn't being yoga. But in
Mhm.
order to sort of be yoga, it was almost like you had to set down some of those stories and the gifts and the opportunity that your parents had sacrificed so much to give you. And in order for you to say yes to what you really are here to do, you had to like really quietly and nicely somehow not reject, but put down these gifts. And you can feel the tension of that. And I think that's why the words immigrit and immiguilt were so brilliant. But you could feel the tension. And I think that that is something, regardless of if you're an immigrant or not, we can feel the tension of the patterns that are running in our lives and how difficult it is to let go of those patterns. Maybe we do have to learn them 50 times over again, new road, new new career, new people around us,
Yeah.
over and over and over again until it becomes clear that just because somebody else has handed you a gift doesn't mean that it's your gift to receive.
Right. And it comes in little drops,
Yes,
so
it did.
right, for me it was I went to India and I was, after I was divorced and I thought, well, my whole thing is when in doubt, go to India. So I went to India quite often. And, my dad has a lot of families there, still there. And one family member in particular was my yogi uncle. And so he practiced yoga his entire life. He had the mindset of a yogi. He was very present. He had the ability to, and I tell the story in chapter 2, but the ability to really know and be like trust his intuition and be able to pass down or to be able to change everyone's life, really, his whole family's life, according to that intuition. And he earned a lot of his family's trust, even his parents. And back in that day, it's like there was seniority. It's like you trust your parents, but here it was. He was this son, this adult son that all his siblings trusted, and even his parents trusted him more because of that deep wisdom and that intuition that he tapped into often.
Yeah.
And so I call him my yogi uncle. And when I went to India and I said, he's like, asked me why I was there. I said, well, I'm here to study more yoga. And he just looked at me and he's like, Beta, we do not study yoga. We are yoga. And so that little, I didn't understand it at the time, but at that, as I took it back with me, I was like, how do I be yoga? What does this mean? And it took me more and more experiences and failures and mistakes and poor decisions to keep coming back. This North Star kept coming back to me. What does it mean? Okay, be yoga, Serena. Sometimes I'd sit there and I'm like, be yoga, be yoga, be yoga. And it's like you want to call it in and say to the universe. To me, I had many conversations with the universe. It's like, okay, this experience is happening. If I were to really truly be yoga, what what is this experience teaching me?
Yeah.
Why am I in this experience? Why is this person in my life? And what do I need to learn in order to change or to shift and to grow? That to me is being yoga. And it took me a lot to realize that experience aren't happening to us. Our experiences happen for us. And they are so, because I valued comfort. For me, comfort was a thing. And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Leave. This is uncomfortable. Leave. This is uncomfortable. Leave. And found myself halfway across the world where in a place where I couldn't leave. And it was still so uncomfortable. And so what do we do in that discomfort? And so it's allowing ourselves to sit in the discomfort, to steep in the discomfort, and to realize this is, it's not the discomfort that's bad. It's avoiding the discomfort
Yeah.
that is really doesn't serve us. It's like, how can we look at this and actually shift it so that what we perceive as uncomfortable is just a shift, is just change, is just growing pains, is just, and I've really had to practice that in my relationship, in my intimate relationships, and in my relationships with my clients, with my students, and of course with my family, of origin. So with my parents, and so that to me is what being yoga, really is. And like you said, we're just inheriting
Yeah.
patterns and patterns. And so when you become the pattern breaker, that's when you're able to see it. I just recently, just with my dad, just the other, a couple months ago, I was like so uncomfortable having a conversation with him that I was like, do it. This is
Oh,
it, Serena. This is
yeah.
the moment. 52 years old. It's like, this is the moment. And I did it. And it was so relieving
Yeah.
and so liberating. Yes, because it was like, if I can do it, it's not that I didn't die. I didn't I didn't fall apart. And he reacted in a way that was, you know, very typical for him to react, and that's okay.
Yeah.
My reaction to his reaction is what I
Needed.
learned to change and learned to sort out and to learn to accept. I'm there to accept. We're here to accept everyone as they are.
Yeah.
They are not. We can't change anybody. And
That lesson is ripe in my life right now too. Just this idea that as we step into our own truth and wisdom, and the terrifying ways that we're set up in situations with our dad or your partner or a really beautiful friend, whatever it is, it's like someone who you care about their reaction. And every time we speak our truth, I know you've read Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and Niyamas as well, but that she has a line in her book that just says, the cost of our truth sometimes is too high a price to pay. And
mm,
and the underlying invitation of yoga is that, oh, the cost of your truth is never too high a price to pay.
mm,
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh,
Yes.
so
And
good.
here I am. I'm told the truth in this book. And to
Yeah.
me, it was so interesting watching my maybe extended families reactions to my book, or maybe not necessarily even hearing what their reaction is, or was, or just hearing it third party sometimes. And it's so freeing, like you said, to be able to feel validated in the idea that I spoke my truth. I did not blame, shame. I mean,
Oh,
this was my experience, and I'm grateful for this experience. I honor my parents and the lineage that I've come from. And I was able to see something that maybe some other people in my family just aren't ready to see.
hmm.
And I was, for me, the my why behind writing the book was really for the next generation. Now, I don't have kids, and that was a really interesting experience for me because I'm like, I'm breaking the pattern for whom?
For who?
Like the pattern ends here, really. Um, and I wrote it for my niece, my sister's daughter, who is so much like me. And I could see the pattern repeating itself. My mother to me, and because my niece is so much like me, I could see my sister sort of repeating those same dynamics in their relationship, and my niece reacting in the same way that potentially I would have. And of course, I'm able to be an auntie for my niece that I never had. I
Yeah.
never had an auntie that could really hold space for me, no matter how I showed up, who didn't judge me for what how the decisions I made. And for me to be that for her, has given me so much fulfillment. I feel so honored to be her auntie, and that she actually listens to me. And also, to be able to give her a safe place in my sister, because my sister has changed as a result of, sort of me bringing these insights into her awareness. And so it's been able to give my niece an opportunity to not have to experience the same
Mhm.
conditioning and that same patterning. And when we can be something that we never had ourselves, that's when I do believe like that's true redemption.
And healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think the fact that you've made this into a book, the book itself in the hands of any young first generation Canadian or immigrant kid becomes the
Yeah.
pattern breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Or
it just any
any
kid.
kid,
Because
you know,
I mean, I'm an Alberta kid. I am a bit of an immigrant. My mom's from England, but I'm like your traditional white kid immigrant, right?
yeah, yeah,
But and so many of the stories in here resonated with me as well because they are stories of coming of age, there's stories of love, there's stories of loss, there's stories of like being a woman
yes.
in this culture. And so there's crossovers, but then there was that extra layer. I have two questions. two questions. Okay, I want to go back to that idea of you said when you were teaching all this yoga and you were giving all this advice, but your own body wasn't doing well. Like you were
Mm.
getting some arthritis, you weren't sleeping well, like all these symptoms were like meh, eh, eh, coming in and cropping up. Like I have lots of theories around what the writing of this book would have done for your physical health, but can you give us an insight into what happened?
When I wrote the book?
Yeah, like what,
Oh.
how does the pre Serena's body, physical body before she wrote this book feel
Mm.
like?
Hmm.
And what does the post Serena's physical body, physical symptoms feel like after this book?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a very good question. The Ayurveda, right? It is the Ayurveda of it. I could have, I love this question. For me, I could have very easily written a book on Ayurveda
Yeah.
or and yoga or whatever it is.
People
Easily.
listening need to know that you studied with Vasant Lad. Like
Yeah.
you sat beside the big names in Ayurveda and studied with brilliance. And so,
Yeah.
yes, you could have written a book of Ayurveda, and you
Yeah.
didn't.
I also taught at the Ayurvedic Institute
Yes.
uh following my study with Dr. Lai. It was such a humbling experience and an honor to teach alongside um someone like Dr. Ladd, and in a place where I was able to marry both of my loves of Ayurveda and yoga and really teach the nuances of the Ayurveda in the yoga, and the yoga in the Ayurveda. I mean, you're called sister science. I mean, this is literally taking these sisters and bringing them together in a way that is so intimate to a deep cellular level.
The science of life that you're teaching is
Absolutely.
the Ayurveda, the science
Yeah.
of yeah, the life,
Yeah.
the science of
Yeah.
longevity. Like you're right in there in the minutia of your body. Okay, so
Right.
your pre-book body and your post-book body. And
Right. But I didn't write a book on the Ayurveda.
oh,
So here I am writing a book on my life. And
yeah,
it kept being this voice in the back of my head. Write your book, write your book. What am I writing? I have no idea. I would wake up. So the Ayurveda to me, my body, when I woke up, when I was writing my book, I needed to slow down. It was when I was actually caregiving for my mom. I was going back and forth from Costa Rica to Canada. I, felt very depleted. I had gone through a little bit of my own health challenge. And as I woke up, dawn would break. I would just get this beautiful surge of energy. I would get up and I'm like, what am I writing today? And it would just come through me. And the stories of each chapter, I wrote those down. And then to make it a book, it was like, well, these are all great stories and they're memories and they're beautiful. But what is the through line that I needed to have there that I could string together that made this an what's the message of
yeah,
this book? And it really took me all the way to the end, writing the very end chapter, that last chapter, and where I was able to see immigrit in my life, how it shaped me, then the immiguilt, again, how that helped, that took me down a pathways that I, made decisions on. And then how I transmuted that into femigrit, which is another term I coined. And it's this not being, and you touched on it earlier, as being a woman, right? It's like being a woman, being a mother. I became a stepmom overnight. And in my body, I let go of my self-care practice. And in my body, it started screaming at me. And so I'm writing this book and I was able to heal myself rheumatoid arthritis through Ayurveda, which is a whole other story. And in all of that, I'm writing this book healed and whole, and I'm seeing how I'm feeling so grateful for those uncomfortable experiences that I was writing about. all
Yeah.
of the experiences. I'm like, femigrit is like the forcing, the controlling, the trying to change an outcome because we're so uncomfortable with it, or that it's maybe making us, um, we're not showing our vulnerability. And so we're trying to be this powerful, tough person, and like strong, and I'm so powerful, I can do it. To me, that's a mask. And
Yeah.
that is femigrit. And when we're in our femigrit, we are not seeing, we are very disempowered. It's
Yeah.
actually the opposite of what power really truly means. And when I started embodying my own feminine wisdom, when I stopped speaking from here, when I stopped thinking from here, in Ayurveda, the hridayam, right, we speak about the heart and the mind, and that we actually, in Ayurveda, we don't even believe that the mind is up here in our heads. Our mind is in our heart,
Yeah.
hridayam. And so for us to lead, speak, live with our heart mind and lead with heart, that's where true wisdom lies. And then if we can go even further in our bodies, into our gut, what does
Mm.
our gut say? What is the truth in our guts telling us? And then in our wombs as women, in this beautiful space of womb wisdom, this is where embodied feminine wisdom lives. And I had to drop down and pause, get dropped down all the way down to the very bottom of my soul, really, in deep in my womb, because my womb to me wasn't, this is where I didn't really pay attention. And
Yeah.
and in Ayurveda, it's like that disconnection is the source of
Of
dis-ease,
disease.
right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
we're not at ease and we're at dis-ease and we're in disconnection, we
Yeah.
are actively cultivating disease. And this disconnection that I had to my lower self, I was starting to source from there. And I teach about this. I teach this as like the feminine waters. Our feminine waters live deep within that womb space. And whether we are biological mothers or not, the source of our wisdom comes from this place. And so this started to become the place from where I taught. This
Yeah.
is became the place where I started, from where I acted and behaved. The place from where I communicated. And this is where the feminine wisdom started to show its power, its true
Yeah.
power. And that's where I felt the most powerful. And so after writing my book, knowing, just feeling so validated in the idea that I have come so far from acting from a place very high up, behaving, speaking, thinking. I mean, I was a walking head. I just thought. And then I was like, even in my vocabulary, well, I think this and I think that and I think that. And when I started realizing, no, and lately I've been really practicing coming down, descending.
Feel.
Yeah, descend before I communicated anything. And maybe even when I descended, I realized maybe that didn't even need to be communicated,
Yeah.
right? So there's power in not saying what you want to say sometimes. I do believe we are sold a little bit of a lie. Finding
A
your voice.
big
Find,
lie.
yeah. It's like, find your voice. Yes, find your voice.
Yeah.
But find your voice and then speak through wisdom and intention. And I call these the gateways. It's like, if you can drop down into your heart, then the gateway of your heart, and that this is your deepest heart's wisdom, like your heart's desire. It's like, okay, this feels right. This feels intentionally like, what's my intention for
Yeah.
speaking this? What's my
Yeah.
intention for saying something? And then I go even further down in my gut. Does my gut really believe that this is true? Is what I'm about to say and speak, is this true? And it may be true for me, but can I be curious enough to see if it's true for reality and the situation? And then that's where, when we get down to the womb, that's where I do believe that is answered. It's like, this might be true for me, but is it true for all of us. And we don't, I mean, the wisdom that Ayurveda provides us, we all know that it's different for everybody. What is medicine for one
That's
person is poison for another.
Yeah, that's the whole point of Ayurveda is that it's personalized. I just
Exactly.
want to bring us like I want to just like ask a big question because it's around Ayurveda says that um, disease is a problem of digestion, and we must digest everything that we take in life. So,
Yes.
what you've just described to me is almost like, yeah, we take in food, but we take in the stories, the patterns, we take in everything, and it all needs to be digested. And I can picture you waking up while you're visiting your mom and writing down these stories, and how this book is a huge act of processing, of
Hmm.
digesting. And
Hmm.
Ayurveda teaches us that when we digest well, no disease can take place in the body. And when
Yes.
we do not digest well, ama builds up and gunk builds up, and all of these sort of like just metabolic waste in the body that's, clogging up filters and blocking things and stopping things from working optimally. And Ayurveda just says, just help digestion happen. And when we do that,
Hmm.
it clears out all of our channels. It connects us down to that womb wisdom, that heart wisdom, gut wisdom, womb wisdom. And we can clean all the channels between our actions and decision making and words, all the way down to the wisdom and intention of those deep, wise places. And we digest the ama. And I
Exactly.
just feel like this book is just like that got rid of a whole bunch of ama in your body.
Well, the reason, yeah, you're right. The reason why it's called Unbound is that reason. And I wasn't planning to call it Unbound at the beginning. Before it was called Culture Chasm. So to me, that was focused on the gap. But when
Yeah.
I started focusing on why, I wasn't even planning to talk about my mom very much. But when I started realizing this is a maternal lineage, this is a woman experience, this is a feminine energy uh, experience that I had that I needed to forgive, that I needed to accept, that I became to terms with. I accept her for who she is, not for the woman, not for the person I wish she had been for me, or not for the mother I wish she had been for me. And then for me to be the kind of stepmother that I never had. And then all I was carrying with me was Amma, this unbound. I mean, you touched on it at the very, very top of the call, is that my mom's grandmother's feet were bound in China. And then my grandmother escaped her feet getting bound. My mother escaped her feet getting bound, and I escaped that. And yet we were walking on very tightly bound, unbound feet because we carried the generational trauma of
Yeah.
fear and escape and unknowing and not feeling loved or wanted or belonging. And all of that is ama. And
Yeah.
so I got the trauma, and there's no mistake that trauma and ama rhyme.
I've
And
never thought of that before.
yes, and I took the trauma and the ama that was passed down to me from my mother's side, and I used the Ayurveda and the Agni that I took from my dad's side, my Indian side,
Oh,
to burn, to transmute, to digest and assimilate, and then eliminate that which no longer served me.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I feel like you're winning the life lesson challenge when
Hmm.
you get to make a statement like that and just know I feel like I'm tingling. Like I just got the tingles right now, just around that idea of like the pattern breaking, the transmutation, the way that you used the gifts to heal the ama/trauma.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Thank you. Yeah.
It just feels like I remember sending you and I had a text exchange and I was like, I'm not at the part where you're talking about yoga and Ayurveda yet. And you just wrote back and you went, it's all yoga. And I was like,
Uh,
huh,
it,
that's interesting. And then I
mhm.
was like contemplating that fact. And it is all yoga.
And Ayurveda.
And Ayurveda. Even the fact that
Hmm.
you said I'd get up early in the morning and write, and I just think Braha Muhurta, the
Hmm.
divine hour before dawn when
Hmm.
the veil between us and the universe is thinnest. And it was like I
Yes.
can picture you taking advantage of the clarity and gifts of that moment to,
Right.
put things down on paper.
I mean, that's why I love living in Costa Rica. It's like the birds and the monkeys, everything's up. And it's like I get up at 4:30. It's like, or sometimes it's like, I just feel like, okay, this is the time. And it comes through you. That book came through me. I mean, people can say that all they want. And I mean, of course, I used my intellect and my
You learned
creativity.
the learned brain that you've had to study
Yes,
to cultivate.
of course, to like put it together. And like I said, I could have written about anything else, but I knew that that was the thing I needed to write about because it is all Ayurveda. It's all of it from the moment I was born, even before I was born. When I was in my mom's womb, when my mom was in her mom's womb, when her mom was in her mom's womb, it's literally we are carrying this life. It is the science of life. And to me, there's nothing greater than living in the circadian rhythm of Ayurveda and using this beautiful channel that is our bodies, like you said, clear the channel so that whatever the universe is asking us to give and contribute to the planet and to our in this lifetime, that is our gift. And it is our responsibility to keep this channel clean and clear. And when we create the obstacles for that message to not come through us, we are doing ourselves and everyone else a disservice.
Absolutely. Well
Mm-hmm.
said. I
Mm-hmm.
I'm also reflecting, just I'm having a little moment of humor in my mind right now, thinking about how we've said you could have written a book about Ayurveda, but you didn't. You chose to write this book. And you alluded to it already, but the first cause of disease in Ayurveda is crimes against your own wisdom. So it's
Yes.
almost like what you gave us here is you gave us this book of, oh, guys, let me tell you, I've committed crimes against my own wisdom. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's like every chapter was like, okay, here's a crime I did against my own wisdom, and that's how I
Yes.
got myself out of it. And here's the next crime I convinced. Like, so it's so human because it is what
Yes.
we're all doing, the way we commit crimes against our own wisdom, and then the ways you uh started to heal from that pattern and how when you stop the big crimes against your own wisdom,
Yes.
everything heals. So I guess in the end, you actually did write a book about Ayurveda.
Exactly. I love that you got that because that was very intentional. People have come up to me ever since. I mean, I've been a fitness instructor since I was 18. I was, a yoga teacher since I was like 20 something. And it was very, people like, oh, you probably don't eat that. Oh, you probably don't drink that. Oh, you probably don't do this. And it was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This, I'm so human
Yeah.
and and it's whether I learned from those mistakes. It was like I mean, we talked about not being congruent. It was like
Yeah.
I've lived a very incongruent life my whole life. And I was I kept trying to find myself into alignment. I kept coming back to how to be yoga, how to be the Ayurveda. Where is it? Where is it? I was searching for it. So in essence, I was searching for that. It's like, people would ask me at the beginning when I'm mixed race, they're like, what are you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you said it at the beginning. I was always trying to figure out what I was, but this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I was, is like you're looking for that alignment, the Ayurveda is who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives you the
It
answers.
does give you the answers. It gives you this beautiful acceptance of all the ways that you are you. And
Hmm.
you allow yourself to follow your own blueprint, your own um, instruction manual.
Yeah.
You have to set down everyone else's instruction manual for you, which
Yeah.
is a lot in this book as well, in order to follow your own instruction manual. But then yeah, you find ojas, you find
Mhm.
vitality and immunity and
Well,
health.
you create it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you create it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, I loved, yeah, thank you. I
Um,
feel like I could talk to you forever, but
yes.
is there anything else we need to wrap up as people, run to Amazon to go buy your
Mm,
book?
thank you. Um, I just for your listeners, it's, we talk a lot, we've talked a lot, we've said a lot of things. And I think what it really just comes down to is one question. You just ask yourself this one question because there's only really ever one answer. Is this thing, this food, this relationship, this experience, this drink, this uh, whatever,
Whatever
is
I'm
it
seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling,
right?
smelling.
Whatever you're ingesting,
Yeah.
is this contributing to the fabric of my well-being or
Yeah.
is it depleting it? That's it. There's
Yeah.
only an answer. Yes, it's contributing, or yes, it's depleting.
Yeah.
And to do more things that contribute to the fabric of your well-being than deplete it, that is going to give you a sustained life that helps you feel good and be able to live the life and, like I said, clear that channel, right? Because there's no, you're your best teacher. Only you know. You you know if it's contributing to you or if it's depleting you.
Yeah. And I think there's the answer to that question. You have to be and not
Mm.
do. And you can't think your way because sometimes you're going to start to go through the logical rationalization to be like justify your
Hmm.
your yes answer around something.
Right.
Even when your body's deep answer is no. And you'll know
Mhm.
that because
Right.
literally your body will start to be louder in its symptoms and signals if you
Mhm.
are not answering that top level question with
Right.
honesty and accuracy for yourself.
Right. And exactly. And I just want to add this one thing is that, with my clients, sometimes they will be like, okay, well, just tell me what to eat and how to eat it, and then I'm going to track it and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And for me, the answer to me for them is I'm going to give you one thing to do. Stop tracking.
Yeah.
Just stop tracking.
I know.
Stop worrying about things. Stop thinking about every little uh,
Yeah.
piece of food that goes into your on your plate, and where it's really, that's the ama. When we
Yeah.
start worrying and not worrying about what we're doing and how we're doing it, that to me creates a lot of mental ama. And especially when you're doing something that is just that you can enjoy, that you love, that you can do with people that you feel really good with, and there's that higher vibration of of essence of, like you said, like of prana and of
Yeah.
ojas. If you can feel that in your life, whatever you're doing is contributing. It may
And
not look like it, but it's contributing.
absolutely. And it could be the idea of like that glass of wine when it's around a kitchen table with friends or
Mhm.
that it's serving you but with the bottle tucked in your hand and you're on the couch all by yourself just like downing the bottle, it's not serving you.
Right.
That's there. Ayurveda really says anything can be medicine and anything can be a drug, and
Mhm.
we all have our own tolerances around all of it. But yeah, I
Mhm.
could have made that story about like a McDonald's hamburger or something too. Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh,
It's been
this
an
is
honor.
yeah, it was a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
So you can buy this book on Amazon.ca or Amazon.com.
Mhm.
And the information about how to get it quickly will be down in the show notes.
That's good. Thanks,
Great.
Jill.
Okay.
And you go to my website and whatever I'm offering there. Whether I'm in Costa Rica, I'm doing a couple retreats and then online programs too. So
Yay.
you can find me.
You know that the Canadians are always looking for a nice Costa Rican yoga retreat.
Yes. Yes.
We
And this is
really
a good
appreciate
one.
you host
Thank you
us
very
down
much.
there. Yeah. Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
All right.